Hi there, my name is Abby Leonard and I'm the artist and painter behind my creative endeavors here on YouTube. This past week I went to a Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. The exhibit was called To See Takes Time, and it highlighted her works done in charcoal, watercolors, graphite, and pastels throughout her career. I've been a huge fan of Georgia O'Keeffe for quite some time now. I saw her work at the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum in Santa Fe and fell in love with her bold colors and the way she blends. She really can make a subject that is like hard and rigid, extra delicate and light. When I heard there was an exhibit about her work in New York, I had to go. So this exhibit really focused on her process, and that kind of spurred me to make this video and try out some of the things I learned about her creative process and apply it to my own practice. And in turn, hopefully you can apply some of these things to your practice as well. Right off the bat, I noticed that she really uses repetition. In the exhibit book that I have here, it goes more into detail about why she does so much repetition and why she chooses one subject and really explores it till there's nothing else for her to say about it. She says she does this for a few reasons. Sometimes she doesn't know why she wants to paint or draw a subject. Exploring that a little bit deeper by using repetition and drawing it over and over again. Sometimes she said it was just fun to use different techniques to explore one subject. So I took that and I picked one photograph from a previous trip in Washington of a waterfall. This photo I picked because it had a lot of detail. It was pretty complex, so I was able to kind of explore different avenues. It wasn't just a very simple landscape. I'll show you some of the first drawings that I did. This one was done on trace paper with a graphite stick, a water-soluble graphite stick. I just wanted something that I could just quickly draw it out. I think it took me three minutes to do this, just to see where the highlights were and some of the shadows. From there, I was inspired to use some pastel, which I end up not using all that much when I create, but I had some cheap pastels, and again, I was just playing with the highlights and the shadows and kind of exploring the composition a little bit. After that, this isn't the waterfall, this was a spot next to the waterfall that I really liked, where fallen trees had kind of slid down the hill next to the waterfall and had a bunch of ferns growing over it. I don't think this was super successful, but I still enjoyed making it. So another highlight from her process was that she really enjoyed using cheaper art supplies, and it kind of gave her a freedom to be able to experiment and do quick drawings and do all these repetitions because the materials weren't super precious. She also liked using pastels, all the dry mediums, because they were easy to start and stop. She had a pretty hectic schedule beginning of her career, and she was an art teacher at different universities and schools throughout the country, so she had to be able to create whenever she had time available, which means she couldn't really do the prep work to set up oils and then do the cleanup. So she really liked that she could just pick up a charcoal and do a drawing on cheap paper and then set it aside and then go about doing maybe a watercolor study. So all of the drawings are done with my cheaper art supplies. They weren't all artist grade materials. So this one is a graphite sketch. I really was playing with using different shapes to create the composition, and I really actually liked this one. So after this sketch, I did a black watercolor version. This is just using a Winsor Newton ivory black, I believe. I took the same kind of massing aspect from this drawing and tried to apply it using watercolors, and actually I achieved some pretty cool blended areas, which I really liked. So these probably were my two favorite. And that takes me to the third element of her creative process, where she simplified. Now, her art in general is pretty abstract. Abstraction is basically the simplification of a subject, but she also kind of applied that to the materials she used. Around 1915, she decided to get rid of color completely from her art practice for a little bit, just because she thought that she needed to be able to say what she wanted to say in black and white without the help of color. So she did that for about half a year, and then when she did add color back, she added it one at a time. So the first color that she added back into her palette was blue. As you can see from the beginning sketches that I've done, I was just trying to stick with black and white. In general, I've been trying to do more value studies, kind of to explore a composition with just black and white, to be able to go deeper with the colors I use, if that makes sense. So I thought that was really cool. I do love using color. I lean towards color almost as a crutch, I think, and I think sometimes my paintings aren't super successful because I don't have like the understanding of value. So that is something I'm working on, and I think these black and white sketches that I did really started to help with that, and I'm going to continue that throughout my practice even after this little experiment. That being said, once I did these black and white drawings, I did want to play around with some watercolor and the idea of simplification and leaning towards more abstraction. So that leads me to my little abstract series. I took these, I believe they're 6x6 squares of watercolor paper, and I wanted to start from a detailed rendering of the scene all the way to abstraction. So the first one I did added a lot of detail. You can see. So the first one I did had a lot of detail, had a lot of texture, and I kind of liked it, but it was a little busy. So from there, I used her wet on wet technique. It's not hers, a lot of watercolors do wet on wet, but I tend not to. But this was the first one that I actually really enjoyed the outcome of it. So Georgia O'Keeffe used the wet on wet technique a lot to get the colors to blend more and to get that like natural effect. So this is the first one I did, and I really liked it. And then from there, I tried to abstract it a little bit more, still using that wet on wet technique. And the last one I did, which I actually really like, is this one. And I really like this partly because the colors blended really neat. I did wet on wet, but just different sections at a time. So it wasn't blending together, it was blending like in these masses. And I don't know, I think I'm gonna definitely explore in the future more of like this type of style, or at least apply it to my creative toolkit. And then lastly, I don't think out of all the drawings that I did that this was super successful. I wanted to take that idea of simplification and bring it large scale, but I think it ended up getting a little too fussy. I still like it, but it wasn't the direction I was going. But maybe I was trying to force it too much. Or maybe I was just kind of done with the subject after, I think these are 9 drawings of painting the same thing. But all in all, not too bad. I learned a lot from this experiment and Georgia O'Keeffe's process. I think playing around with these different techniques can be beneficial for any type of artist, whether you're a brand new beginner or an experienced painter. I think stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit and trying a different process that you learn from a different artist can be really beneficial. So if you're in the New York City area, this exhibit is open till August 12th at the Museum of Modern Art, the MoMA, in New York City. If not, the exhibit book is available from the MoMA website, and I think I also saw it on Amazon. If you purchase from the MoMA store, some of the proceeds go to keeping the museum running, which is always good to support. But yeah, I read this book in a couple days, and there's a lot more information in here that I didn't touch on in the video. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you end up trying any of these processes in your own practice, let me know down below how it went and if you learned anything new. And with that, I hope you had a good day, and thank you for watching.